Everybody ready? Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the July 13, 2016 meeting of the Rotterdam Town Board. This evening we had our agenda meeting at 5:43. We began officially began our meeting. At that time, Councilmember Bolano, seconded by Councilmember Christou, called for an executive session. And at 5:45, we all voted in favor of calling for the executive session at the end of the agenda meeting. Also during the agenda meeting, we voted all in favor to table resolutions 170.16 and 171.16 until the August 9th meeting of the Rotterdam Town Board. So those two resolutions will not be voted on this evening. We'll be tabling those two resolutions until the next meeting. Then later in the meeting, agenda meeting, Councilmember Christou, seconded by Councilmember Larmore, made a motion to move the executive session, because we were running out of time, to the end of our town meeting this evening, rather than the end of the executive session, or excuse me, agenda meeting. So at the end of our town meeting, we will have an executive session. All voted in favor to move that executive session to the end of the meeting, which, if you look at your agenda, it does say executive session at the end, so we will be doing that at the end. So what we will be doing after the meeting, after we vote on all the resolutions and we have our committee reports, etc., we will move into that room again to have an executive session, and then we will break out of that room and have to come back here again to adjourn the meeting. So that you know that for those of you who want to stay, you may, and for those of you who want to go home, we'll just probably come out. We won't be transacting any other business unless someone has a resolution I don't know about. So we're just ending the meeting. So at this point, if you would all please stand. And Carl, would you lead us in the pledge?
Sorry?
Lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Carl. So I did, didn't I? Roll call.
Okay.
I jumped to the pledge. I'm sorry. Let's do the roll, Ms. Marco.
Mr. Christou?
Present.
Mr. Lamore?
Present.
Mrs. Miller Herrera? Present. Mr. Bolano?
Present.
Mr. Tomazon?
Present.
5 present.
I looked at everybody. I saw you were all here, and I jumped. I'm sorry about that. Under Supervisor's report, I'll just mention now that there is an event occurring on the evening of Tuesday, August 2nd, the 2016 National Night Out. It's where police and community partner together here in Rotterdam. It will be from 4 to 8 p.m. So again, Tuesday, August 2nd, from 4 to 8 p.m. The event, if you will be held at the Rotterdam Youth Soccer Fields, which are located at 100 Princetown Road. That's behind Jefferson School there on Princetown Road. And it is a annual community building campaign that promotes police community partnerships and neighborhood camaraderie to make our neighborhoods safer, better places to live, etc. So wanted to make sure that everyone knew about that. Okay. Ms. Marco, would you please call for the public comment privilege of the floor?
Kathy Rush?
Good evening. I have a commentary I have prepared. Okay. My husband Vince, who is right beside me here, we've lived in the common section of Rotterdam for 37 years. Our children grew up enjoying the Leonard White Park. Recently, though, some very disturbing events have transpired in our neighborhood that have led us to believe that the town council has made some poor decisions without our knowledge or consent. When the sewer proposal for Hamburg Street was introduced, we understood it to be an improvement for the businesses located on Hamburg Street. Many of the existing businesses were not in favor of the sewers, but with the advent of new businesses, we were told these sewers were necessary, along with not one, but 2 sidewalks on both sides of Hamburg Street. The homeowners of Hamburg Street were told it would be mandatory. No grants or tax breaks or any kind of dollar relief to defray the cost to them for such an expense, for example, $5,000. You can be sure the town will reap benefits for this project via better business, but what about the residents? We are not given any information or a chance to voice our opinions on matters that affect our quality of life. Although it was voted on by the council, there was no opportunity for discussion between the council and the residents. 2 years ago, 6 trees from Common Park were cut down. We asked why, and we were told it was to make room for a snack stand for the Little League. And when we mentioned that some of the trees were not in the direct vicinity of the snack stand, we were told it was a mistake. The trees near the children's play area, the ones that the parents and grandparents liked to sit under while their kids played, were still there. And the beautiful ones that bordered the fences were still there, so we figured, well, at least a few survived. 2 weeks ago, we were dismayed to find those 6 trees were cut down for a proposed parking lot. This seemed an illogical conclusion, as there is a perfectly adequate parking area, complete with park entrance on 3rd Street right around the corner. Illogical or not, a total of 12 trees have been cut down. They're gone. The residents of the area are furious because no one is in favor of these projects. This is not, as some would choose to believe, an improvement to Common Park. You don't make a park better by cutting down its trees, or ripping down batting cages to make way for the slurry pump proposed as an extension to the Hamburg Street Sewer Project. So the project goes forward, pushed through and voted on by the town council, but not the people it's impacting, the residents of Carmen. But in plain terms, a pump station that breaks down sewage into sludge to be pumped back to Glengarry and Hamburg, it's just surreal. Sewers don't belong in a park or near children's ball fields. I cannot believe the town council has the best interest of the residents at heart, and certainly by this action, not the children. Everyone has been kept in the dark about the changes in our neighborhood, the sewers, the parks, the trees, everything. As taxpayers, we should be informed of the things that will affect our taxes and our lives. We deserve to be told what's going on. How big will this pumping station be? Will there be noise or odors? How will this affect the value of the homes in this area? All questions that really don't need to be secrets. We need some answers. We deserve this as taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you.
In order,
Kathy, would you like me to have the
Yes.
Why don't we address at the end, Joe?
Thank you.
Move the resolution. Is that okay with you?
all right,
Do you mind doing that, though?
that's fine.
Tim Ahrens?
Good evening and thank you. The reason for me stopping in tonight was to introduce myself. My name is Tim Ahrens. I'm the Director of Solar Development for SunEdison here in New York State. I live locally here in Schenectady, and we've got a project within the township that we'd like to pursue. As most of you are aware, currently for a project of what we're considering, which would be a 2-megawatt project, which falls on 12 to 13 acres approximately, isn't permitted within the town. I understand the steering committee is working towards something, and the town is potentially working towards something. But in this duration between now and when something ultimately gets enacted, the incentive pool within NYSERDA, which these projects use, is a decreasing block scenario. And I wanted to present, A, myself tonight to make myself available to the town at any time if there's any questions that comes up, but B, also introduce and ask if the town would consider issuing or signing a letter or notice of intent so that we can secure our incentive for this project before they continue to decrease in value, maintaining or securing the value while you work through your process. And it's a very simple, non-binding, it's not an endorsement, it's a very simple letter that just says that the town, in the event SunEdison should propose a project, would act as lead agent. And what that does is it allows NYSERDA to know that, hey, we are actively trying to pursue something, we've made ourselves available to the town, we present ourselves. An ideal situation would be, and they recognize too that certain towns are ready to move forward and certain ones are not. And so they've allowed for two ways to secure the incentives. One is you actually make an application for the project, which in this case we can't. Or two, you can use this notice or letter of intent.
To hold the money back.
Exactly.
License for you.
Exactly. So
Do you have a you have a proposal there?
I brought an example, I brought a generic example in different towns.
So if you don't mind, names, yeah, leave it with the town clerk, and what we'll do is, with Ms. Marco, what we'll do is we'll look that over, and I'll have, do you have your contact information?
I've got a business card for everybody.
Throw them right in there, and what we'll do is we'll have Kate or the town planner will be in contact with you tomorrow.
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. Great.
Is there a location chosen, sir?
Yes, we're interested in a, thank you very much. Oh, and I can send you that electronically also, and I can also provide other examples that towns have used, in case you want to see variations.
I know I saw you here at the steering committee.
Yes. Just real quick to answer your question, yes, we've entered into a land lease agreement with a landowner up right near the corner of Pattersonville, Rhinex Corners Road, and Mariahville Road. So, and it's actually a really great location because we're over 2,000 feet off the road from one direction and over 1,000 feet and across a ravine from another. So it's actually a very secluded location where we would like to do the project. So, okay. Thank you very much.
Oh, great. Thank you. Anyone else, Ms. Mark?
Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, so public comment privilege of the floor is closed. Let's move on to the resolutions.
Riding Corners Road.
Ms. Marco, 16116.
Appoint Nicholas Kazakowski of Rotterdam, New York, 12306, to the position of wastewater treatment plant operator trainee for the Department of Public Works, full-time provisional, with full employee benefits, with an annual salary of $43,537.50, effective July 18, 2016.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Christou. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Councilmember Miller Herrera. Anyone on the question?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor.
Sure, go ahead.
And I just want to let Nicholas know, when you are filling out an application or a resume or everything, you have to make sure that it is completely filled out. When I was looking at the application, on one of the jobs, there was no time frame starting or ending, which to me, I can't presume that it was a long period of time. I have to presume that it was a short period of time because there was nothing on there. So because I don't have the complete information I need to make a positive decision one way or another, I'm going to be abstaining because that information is important to have to make a decision knowing, oh yeah, he had lots of experience, a lot of work history, or not much work history. So you really need to be careful of that. So I just wanted to say that.
Okay, thank you. And just for the record, I gave Nick a copy of the application. I instructed him on a couple of the items that were missing. We're going to take care of that. And more importantly, this is a training position for which Nicholas took an exam and rated on the exam in order to fulfill the requirements of the training position. So we have a motion by Councilmember Christou, a second by Councilmember Miller Herrera. Any other?
Yeah, just one thing. I'd just like to put on the record that this is a replacement of an unfilled position due to a termination earlier this year. This isn't a new job that's being created.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
I'm going to abstain.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 abstention.
Okay, resolution 16116 passes. Nick, would you stand up and just be recognized? Nick will be working at our wastewater. Carl Shafarzik, who's just sitting in front of him there, is our operator at the plant, and we'll have a couple resolutions on in August for the wastewater treatment plant, hopefully. All right. So that you know that too. We're moving that along. Carl comes to the meetings when he sees that there are items on that affect the wastewater treatment plant, and I appreciate you being here, Carl. And you're not getting paid for being here. Nope. Let's be open about that too. So thank you, Carl. Thank you. Okay, resolution 16216.
Appoint Phyllis Horvath of Rotterdam, New York, 12306, to the position of part-time clerk for the Department of Public Works provisionally with no compensatory time and no employee benefits at an hourly rate of $12 per hour, commencing on July 18, 2016.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Councilmember Christou. Is there a second, please?
I'll second it.
Okay, second by Councilmember Larmore. Anyone on the question?
Mr. Supervisor,
Yes.
I see that the police department and some of the other departments are going to be funding this position through
Yes.
transfers of their monies in the A fund Based on the fact that it's not any additional expenditure, I can get on board with this.
Okay, thank you. And I want to just give a little more clarity to that. I did approach the police chief and deputy chief through the police chief to look at the budget to see where we could find some additional revenue, or if you will, excuse me, additional monies for Department of Public Works, because there's a lot going on down there, as we all know, with property issues and building, et cetera. So I want to thank the chief and deputy chief for assisting us in this position. So we have a motion by Councilmember Christou, a second by Councilmember Larmore. May you call the roll, please, Ms. Marco?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Resolution 16216 passes. Resolution 16316.
Town Board of the Town of Rotterdam agrees to modify its regular month meeting schedule, the Rotterdam Town Board agenda session, and a meeting scheduled for Wednesday, August 10th, 2016 at 5:30 p.m. and 7 p.m. will be held on Tuesday, August 9th, 2016 at 5:30 p.m. and 7 p.m. The Rotterdam Town Board agenda session and meeting scheduled for Wednesday, November 9th, 2016 at 5:30 p.m. and 7 p.m. will be held on Wednesday, November 16th, 2016 at 5:30 p.m. and 7 p.m.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Christou. Is there a second, please?
I'll second it.
Second by Councilmember Valano.
I think Rick beat
You
me.
think so? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry.
Okay, Rick, you're on.
I'm easy.
You've got the jacket on, so we'll give it to the guy with the jacket. Okay, so we have a motion by Councilmember Christou and a second by Councilmember Larmore. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, Resolution 16316 passes. Resolution 16416.
Call for public hearing to be held on Tuesday, August 9th, 2016 at 7 p.m. at the John F. Kirvin Government Center, Town Hall, 1100 Sunrise Boulevard, Rotterdam, New York, 12306, upon adoption of a proposed local law of the year 2016 for the following purpose: to create Chapter 99 clothing bins, donation bins, and recycling bins of the Code of the Town of Rotterdam. It is the intent of the Town of Rotterdam to support and encourage in a responsible manner the placement and use of attended and unattended clothing bins, donation bins, and recycling bins. These bins are most commonly used to collect for recycling, resale, or reuse general household goods such as clothing, shoes, books, and small appliances. This chapter is intended to protect the public health, safety, and welfare, and protect the environment by establishing rules and regulations for clothing bins, donation bins, and recycling bins.
Okay, may I have a motion to call for the public hearing?
I'll move.
Motion by Councilmember Valano. May I have a second, please?
I will second that.
Okay, second by Councilmember Larmore. So on the question, we are, there'll be a number of the details that'll be brought out, but wherever you see these bins and collection, the recycling bins, sometimes they're located on main roads, and they could be an impediment to traffic. Someone tries to pass, and oftentimes they're overloaded, and there's debris around the bins. What we're just trying to do here is establish a much tighter bunch of regulations, if you will, on their location, where they can be placed, and you'll see something along, like this, obviously this is a different matter, but regarding fireworks. We don't want fireworks set up next to people's homes when they're selling fireworks. So we'll be doing a few things along those lines as well in the coming meetings. So I want to, again, just commend our town attorney for working on this in our Department of Public Works. So we have a motion by Councilmember Valano, a second by Councilmember Larmore. Anyone else on the question? Please call the roll. Ms. Marco?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, Resolution 16416 passes. Resolution 16516.
Call for public hearing to be held on Tuesday, August 9th, 2016 at 7 p.m. at the John F. Kirvin Government Center, Town Hall, 1100 Sunrise Boulevard, Rotterdam, New York, 12306, upon adoption of a proposed local law of the year 2016 for the following purpose: to create Article 11 of Chapter 266, Vehicles and Traffic, entitled Article 11, Driver Responsibility Fee. The Town Board of the Town of Rotterdam finds that there is a cost to the town associated with the adjudication of violations before the Town Justice Court, and that the town is not reimbursed for such costs. Therefore, the town finds that it would be in the best interest of the town to authorize the imposition of a driver responsibility fee to recover the costs associated with the identification of such fees as set forth in this local law.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Councilmember Christou, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Miller Herrera. On the question?
I'd just like to say, I really like the idea that we're calling for a public hearing on this. I think it would be great to get feedback from our residents about whether this is something they would like to see. I know people are very concerned about people speeding through town, people who don't live here, and whether there should be a fee associated with that. Our town court, obviously, for anyone who's been there, is quite overcrowded on court nights, and this would help deal with some of that overcrowding and providing us with some funds to be able to make some improvements.
Anyone else?
Yes, Mr.
Mr. Malacco?
All right. I've spent a lot of nights in Rotterdam Town Court as well as other courts. I do agree that our town court facility is overcrowded. It's actually very busy. We are, typically within, I believe, the top 50 or 60 town courts in the state for issuing citations and collecting money. Because of that, I don't think it's a secret that the Rotterdam Town Court is a cash cow. We're not up there with Colony, we're not number 7 like they are, but in some years, we earn over $450,000 a year, like we did in 2014. In 2015, on a partial year, we were up above $275,000, and that was as of, I think, like October-ish. We ended up making more than $300,000. I understand it's expensive to run a court. We have court clerks, we have 2 justices, and we have aging facilities. However, I don't think that anybody is going to say somebody that can be whacked, for, $150 fine, plus an $85 surcharge, plus, trust me, nobody goes unpunished when they have to pay their attorney another $250 to $300 to show up. When we start adding fees on top of that, we have to remember what we're talking about. We're talking about people blowing through a stop sign, possibly speeding. I mean, these aren't high criminal acts. Really, the thing is, nobody goes unpunished when we collect $400,000 a year. With that being said, it's another cash grab. It's politically popular to add sin taxes and fees, whether it be on cigarettes, whether it be on alcohol, whether it be on speeding. But this is money that we're collecting from our citizenry. It's money that we're collecting from our neighbors. And it's one of the few areas that I can say that the state has actually occupied the field. And the law, based upon which this instant law is, one of the foremost authorities in the state, Donald, known as Dutch McGill, has actually said that the law itself is flawed. We're acting prematurely. When I asked the town attorney, is there any place in the state where they're doing this? I was told Nassau County. When I responded that Nassau County has no town courts, Nassau County has no village courts, Nassau County has a district court. It is run differently than the rest of the state. I didn't think that that was an apples to apples analogy. It simply doesn't exist. It was suggested that we're getting out in front of the ball and that this is a thing of the future. I don't want to be the first town to take more money from its citizens. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
Okay, Mr. Supervisor, if I may. On that note, I do view it a little bit differently. First of all, we're collecting funds not from our law-abiding neighbors, but from those who are clearly breaking the law. There's been more than one meeting where, at that microphone right over there, residents, especially residents in the El Dorado Acres development, talk about how people belligerently speed and run stop signs and put their children in danger. If this could act, A, as a deterrent,
B, help fund perhaps better patrolling in that neighborhood. I think it's worth the public hearing, Mr. Valano and the rest of the board. Again, I don't want to wait till somebody's child gets run over before we take, take any kind of action. So I'm all for the public hearing.
All right, I'd like to say something also.
Sure.
I am for the public hearing for the fact that I think a lot of issues need to be brought out about this, and I do think we need feedback from the townspeople, but we need everyone here and everyone that is going to be watching this to know the next meeting, we need you to come out and force to tell us what you want. We can't do it, we can't make decisions like this without really hearing what the town people want. So we need that. But like, I think we need to determine things like, where is that money going to go to? What kind of account it's going to go into? We also need to know what the cost is going to be. I really think that it should be a minimal amount, as like what Joe said, there's already a high cost whenever you get a ticket. You're already paying a fine, you're paying a fee, an extra fee, you're already paying a lot. So we don't want to make it too major if we do make it, but we need to know where that money is going to also. But I think we need the people in the town to come out and let us know what they think of this.
I'll discuss, I'll keep my comments for the public hearing, I think. So, anyone else on the public hearing call? Ms. Marco, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
No.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 no.
Resolution 165-16 passes. 166-16.
Adopt local law number 6 of the year 2016 for the following purpose: to amend chapter 266, vehicles and traffic, 266-47, schedule 7, yield intersections, and 266-46, schedule 6, stop intersections of the code of the town of Rotterdam as follows: repeal all language in vehicles and traffic, 266-47, schedule 7, yield intersections requiring a yield sign on Melrose Street at the intersection of Ford Avenue. Amend vehicles and traffic, 266-46, Schedule 6, stop intersections, to include the installation of a stop sign in both directions of traffic on Ford Avenue at the intersection Melrose Street, intersection and stop sign on Melrose Street at the intersection of Ford Avenue. Public hearing was called for at the town board meeting of May 11, 2016. Public hearing was held at the town board meeting of May 25, 2016.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Councilmember Christou. Is there a second, please?
I get it? Go ahead, Joe.
No, he's got it again. He beat me.
All right, I'll second it.
Okay, second by Councilmember Larimore. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 166-16 passes. Resolution 167-16.
Adopt local law number 7 of the year 2016 for the following purpose: to amend chapter 112, electrical inspections, 112-5, authorization of inspectors, to include northeast electrical inspections, and 112-7, application for inspection and certificate of compliance required of the code of the town of Rotterdam, New York, to include northeast electrical inspections, LLC, and New York Atlantic Inland Incorporated, and to remove New York Board of Fire Underwriters and the Allied Electrical Inspection Agency. Public hearing was called for at the town board meeting May 25th, 2016. Public hearing was held at the town board meeting of June 8th, 2016.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Councilmember Valano. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Christou. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 167-16 passes. 168-16.
Issue a request for proposal for Rotterdam wastewater treatment plant mechanical bar screen replacement, which will be opened on Thursday, July 28, 2016 at 11 a.m.
May I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Councilmember Christou. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Councilmember Miller Herrera. Anyone on the question? Okay, please call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, Resolution 16816 passes. 16916?
Adopt a secret negative declaration dated June 29, 2016 for the repair and/or replacement of various pieces of equipment and treatment units at the town's wastewater plant.
Can we have a motion, please?
I'll move.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Christie and a second by Councilmember Larmore. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, Resolution 16916 passes, and we have tabled 170 and 171. Move on to 17216.
Authorize the supervisor to execute an agreement with Mohannis Central School District, 2072 Curry Road, Rotterdam, New York, 12303, for the purpose of transporting town district residents used to a town-sponsored summer program activity, Tri-City Valley Cats game, at a cost of $250.
May I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Councilmember Valano, second, please.
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Christie. Anyone on the question? Okay, please call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, Resolution 17216 passes. Resolution 17316.
Authorize the supervisor to enter an agreement with CT Nail Associates, 50 Century Hill Drive, Latham, New York, 12110, for explosive gas monitoring at the town of Rotterdam's MSW landfill, as set forth by NYSDEC, and the amount not to exceed $1,490.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Councilmember Larmore, is there a second, please?
I'll second it.
Second by Councilmember Valano. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, Resolution 17316 passes. Resolution 17416.
Authorize the supervisor to enter into a contract with Open Stage Media, 432 State Street, Schenectady, New York, 12305, to broadcast town board meetings in an amount not to exceed $5,000.
May I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Councilmember Miller Herrera. Is there a second, please?
I'll second it.
Second by Councilmember Larmore. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Resolution 17416 passes. Resolution 17516.
Authorize the supervisor to execute an agreement with City of Schenectady City Hall, 105 J Street, Schenectady, New York, 12305, to provide animal control services, ACO, through December 31st, 2016.
May I have a motion, please?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Councilmember Christie. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Miller Herrera. Anyone on the question?
Just one thing real quick, Mr. Supervisor. I'm going to vote yes on this because we now have a price tag. Initially, I wasn't going to vote yes, but we have the price tag. That's what we need to do, is make sure the information we need to make a positive decision is in the package we get, so we can do what we need to do the right way. Thank you very much.
Sure, and just along those lines, our town attorney has worked feverishly on getting this done, so that you know that. So we didn't have the confirmation back from the city until today.
Oh, wow.
So that's, so just so you know, yeah, it was that tight. Yeah, so we have been working on this for quite a while, so.
Well, I do thank you for those numbers.
No, it's okay, you're welcome. And anyone else?
I would just like to note that this contract is for the reining in and control of vicious and dangerous and loose dogs only. This doesn't apply to other animals. And if an individual does have a raccoon or something, or a snake that needs to be controlled, they'll have to go out and get a private pest exterminator. But if somebody does have a loose dog or a vicious dog, Mr. Supervisor, they should contact the Rotterdam Police Department.
Contact the
Or
Central
911.
Dispatch.
Central Dispatch.
Yeah, contact Central Dispatch.
Okay,
And I mean, if they call the police department, it'll get out to Central Dispatch eventually, but I would call the Central Dispatch number.
okay.
Yeah.
Which is 911.
911.
Okay.
Central Dispatch is going to dispatch the city of Schenectady's ACO, and so it wouldn't benefit a resident to contact our police department directly
So they should call into 911 and then they will be patched to central dispatch for the call to go out.
There's another number, Diane, you know it, right? 6300-911?
630-911.
Right, that's what it is. So, and we'll put that on the website as well,
Okay,
because that's the non-911 number, but it goes there.
okay.
So that they know, hopefully it's not a life-threatening emergency with an animal, but you never know. So, but more importantly, the town code speaks to animal control officer being the dog warden. Basically, it doesn't allow, afford other animals from that perspective. So we will also be creating a list of vendors, if you will, out there, private parties that would work on containing a raccoon or some other animal on someone's property should they need it. But they would be paying them directly.
Okay.
Okay, and so. Okay, so we have a motion by Councilmember Christoon, a second by Councilmember Miller Herrera. Anyone else? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Tomaso?
Yes.
5 yes.
Thank you. Resolution 175-16 passes. Resolution 176-16.
Authorize the supervisor to accept funds from the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation in accordance with the provisions of Title IX of the Environmental Protection Act of 1993 in the amount not to exceed $500,000 and enter into and execute a project agreement with the state for such financial assistance to the town of Rotterdam for improvements to the Great Flats Aquifer Park, including improved parking and a rain garden at the trailhead.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Councilmember Christoon. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Miller Herrera. So on the question, the max amount that we could apply for is $500,000. I'm anticipating it will be less than that, but it's up to $500,000. We have been working, and again, our town attorney, Ms. McGurl, and others within the Department of Public Works, and our highway superintendent, Mr. Lamora, and also we're working with the Cub Scouts or an Eagle Scout that was going to do part of this project for his badges in that park when improvements are to be made. There's also a house there that's been abandoned for some time, and we're looking to secure that property as well and make the parking lot nicer, larger, put in a sign there eventually that, because it is a gateway into the town, it does not look good. We want to make some major improvements there. The rain garden and some of the other improvements that will be made there have to do with the town having, in the past a year, 2 years, a fine from the EPA of tens of thousands of dollars. Is it 50? Is the original fine? 37.5. Okay, 37.5. I think it was a higher number one time, is what I remember, but 37.5. So with the rain garden and some other improvements there, they will help mitigate the fine that the town would have to pay to the EPA. So we'll be able to use that money and make improvements to this area of the town. So I'm excited about that particular project, and I'll speak more about some of the other things that we're doing in some of the other town parks at the end of the meeting. But I thank the board for moving this ahead this evening. So Ms. Marco, would you please call the roll on 176-16?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Tomaso?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 176-16 passes. Resolution 177-16.
Authorize the supervisor to execute a letter of intent to file an application for Restore New York Communities Initiative Municipal Grant Program.
May I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Councilmember Christou. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Councilmember Larmore. And on the question, I owe everyone here a copy of a letter that I received from the agency that's putting this program together, initiating this program. What we're doing is we're just sending a letter, we're signing basically and putting out a letter of intent to potentially apply for a grant from the state on a piece of property that may be abandoned somewhere in town. In other words, we haven't absolutely identified it. They just sent us this information like a couple of weeks ago, so we're in the process of trying to find a piece of abandoned property or properties that are either in a commercial area somewhere where we can make the case that, you know, there would be an economic development opportunity, some job creation opportunities, things like that. But it's only a $250 fee to the state, so we will be at least spending $250 to do this. but it makes sense for us to at least get the letter out to the state so that we can hopefully apply for something. Yeah, get us there, so maybe we can get some other money in the town for an improvement project. But I will get you all the background information on it this evening. I looked on my phone, I think I only received the email here at the town, I don't have that on my phone, so I'll forward that to you. So, motion by Councilmember Christou, second by Councilmember Larmore. Anyone else on the question? 177? Okay, Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, Resolution 177-16 passes. Resolution 178-16.
Authorize the supervisor to execute the sub-recipient business integrity determination form as required by the Governor's Office of Storm Recovery. Award the bid to Lane Christensen Company, 134-2 Lane, Schoharie, New York, 12157, for the construction of the 5th water well with system improvements to create an additional 3,000 gallon per minute water well in the town of Rotterdam, and authorize the supervisor to execute a contract and all documents necessary to effectuate this construction of this project with the bidder and the Governor's Office of Storm Recovery in accordance with the terms of the bid proposal as submitted, contingent upon the review and approval of this award of contract by the Governor's Office of Storm Recovery or their designee.
May I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Councilmember Christou. May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Larmore. Anyone on the question?
Although I plan on voting yes, I mean, it just seems sad that we only ended up getting back one bid. And I'm thrilled to see the bid even came in under the engineer's estimate of what the expense is going to be. But there has to be other ways that we can try to generate bid traffic other than just posting in the newspaper and doing the bare minimum. I mean, although I'm thrilled this time it ended up turning out in our favor, likewise, we could have gotten a bid that's substantially ended up exceeding what we initially estimated. Are there any other ways that we can?
I do know that that the engineering firm did attempt to get some other folks to bid on the project, not knowing what was coming in. Right? So,
Yeah.
You know, there were what typically happens in these types of instances, especially with something that's specialized like this. It's not a construction of a building, let's say, for a concrete pad or something like that. There, you might get, if we were to put up another water tank, or even for some of the other stuff that will be done, other projects that will be done on that property or elsewhere, I think you'll see more bids come in. But they do reach out. So those companies, whether it was Lane and some others, they would reach out to them and say, tell us about this project. And then they just decide not to bid. When we had the well that the water tank in the junction, we had a lot of bids come in for that. But many of the bids were in conjunction with some of the other bidders. It was kind of, those types of things happen too. So sometimes I want to say they hedge their bets, but it also comes down to what else these guys may be doing out there, these types of companies, because again, they're very specialized that do this kind of work. So they may be out in other municipalities doing a lot more work. This just, falls outside their ability to get it at this point in time for us. But you're right. I mean, it's great that it came in below what the estimates were, and I'm hopeful that the rest of the projects that we have this year, we have the same thing happen. But it would be great to have more bids. I will ask the engineer to give us some kind of detail on that, on who bid.
Yeah.
Or called in, excuse me, for the bid. Okay.
I would just be excited if we could expand our horizon, because any competition, especially if they know that there's going to be heavier bid traffic.
But when we call for these bids, it's public, right? So it's on the town website, and I've told engineering firms, other contractors out there, pavers. Some of them are very large. We don't need to throw names out, but we basically said, well, we just don't bid the town for one reason or another. And Evan and I have, independently been telling different people out there, would you please bid? That we have these public meetings. The information is on our, on our website. What's going to be on the agenda afterwards? What passes once the certified resolutions come through. So it's not a situation that they don't know. I don't think that they do some research, or at some point they just decide, we're doing so much work for this county or this part of the state or this company or this municipality, they just don't bother bidding here.
Mr. Supervisor, to Mr. Villano's point, just to let you know, Joe, I have met with, not as far as water wells are concerned, but I know the highway superintendent and I have met with some other contractors for things like paving, so I'm all for at least 3 bids per thing, and I don't think it's a bad idea to look into some of the more modern electronic formats of advertising for bids. I think there's something called BidNet, which, is becoming more and more popular with some municipalities, so I would be more than glad to work with you to see if there's some other venues to, and again, I think electronic is the way to get that information out in today's world.
Especially considering if we kept like a bid portfolio of anybody that's bid on any of our jobs in the past, we sent out a blast email and it cost actually $0, to put it at least back in front of people that we know that have done work for the town before.
Mr. Supervisor, I just know for the record, off the top of my head, I don't have it in front of me, but there was 5 or 6 different companies that actually bid on it. Okay? No, took the bid back.
Oh, took the bid back,
Never
yeah.
brought them back. That was the
So,
only one that
okay.
brought it back. And it is, and I don't know the exact name, it was on the website, but there's and I'm not familiar with the name. It was put on, I don't know if it's called New York State, some electronic thing that, it was definitely on there, definitely on there too.
All right.
So,
And, it's in the newspaper too, so I don't know, and I know they do send letters out.
so,
Okay.
okay.
I can't think of what it is.
So, we voted yes on that, right?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Just kidding. All right, let's move on to that. We have a motion by Councilmember Christou, a second by Councilmember Larmore. Please call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomaso?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, thank you. Resolution 178-16 passes. Resolution 179-16.
Adopt standard workday for elected officials for the purpose of determining days worked reportable to the New York State and local employees retirement system.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Is there a second, please?
Might as well keep it up. I'll second it.
Okay, second. Okay, so we have a motion by Councilmember Christou, a second by Councilmember Larmore. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomaso?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 179-16 passes. Resolution 180-16.
Accept town clerk's report for the month of June 2016.
Have a motion, please?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Councilmember Larmore. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Valano. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomaso?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 180-16 passes. Resolution 181-16.
Authorize budget transfers by the town controller to various accounts for 2016.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Councilmember Christou. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Councilmember Miller Herrera. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomaso?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 181-16 passes. Anyone for committee reports this evening? I would just like to address your comments regarding Leonard C. White Park. And I won't go through some of the other things and just state the facts. There is no parking lot being created at the park. The parking lot does exist on Third. There's no need for an additional pavement of parking there, number one. Secondly, some of the trees that were removed because they're either decaying or dying. And in other words, they were overgrown. We have one section, for those of you familiar with the park, so just to give you an idea, if you are facing east, you're on First Ave and you're facing east, you're looking at the park, and the ball fields are here, basketball court is here. Part of that fencing was pulled back 8 or 9 years ago when I was supervisor prior, and we did that because what happens is people pull in there invariably and park diagonally along that road, and would block traffic, so you could not have two-way traffic on that road. They never completed the job because I wasn't here anymore, and they didn't move the rest of the fencing. So we are going to move the rest of that fencing back, because no matter what we do, we're not going to pave it, but no matter what we do, people are still going to park there, and they have parked there, and the back ends of their vehicles stick out into the street, which is a problem for two-way traffic, emergency traffic, etc. There's also there are stairs there. We're going to be removing those stairs, like 2 steps, and the concrete is broken. There's blacktop that's been put over it. We're going to make a more of a path there, so it's wheelchair accessible. into the park. We have reached out to National Grid because there are certain trees that they like us to plant along the roads because they're low growing and they will not impact the power lines. So we will be working with them because they do have some kind of a grant program that will assist us with defraying some of the cost of the trees. We will be planting at least twice the number of trees that we have removed. So that will happen there. The basketball court, there's only one basketball net there, a backboard for probably 5-6 years. And we're making all these improvements. We have already put a budget together and I haven't shared it yet with the board because we're not done yet. The Parks Committee came up with a list of things that they would like to see in all the various parks. From picnic tables to, again, improving the backboards for the basketball courts, just a lot of different things and a lot of different items. So we're working through that list and putting a budget together so that I can then present it to the board. We'll be moving parkland funds from our account to pay for those items. We will get that work done this year. And then in the fall and the winter, you'll see us do some other projects in the parks that will prepare us for the spring and so that we're done with these other projects that we need to do so that when the summer hits, the parks not only look better, but people can enjoy them for all of the parks around town. For example, Memorial Park, we already put out, we had a few companies bid on new fencing all along Prairie Road here. So you're going to see some improvements there. And we'll be changing the signs and putting up new signs for Memorial Park and for Town Hall, signifying where Town Hall is. So you'll be seeing these things. They're not all, they just don't all happen at once, unfortunately. And what also I think unfortunately gets lost in some of the translation through emails and other things are people's intentions. I mean, our intention in the town is and the Parks Committee is to make improvements to the parks. And I think if you go around, you may see small things happening. Yes, some trees are cut down. Yes, some blacktop shows up. And so, for example, Jurassic Park, we had nowhere to park. You're parking on in the dirt. And we made there's a small parking area there, which will be striped out for both handicap parking and just a couple of regular parking spots, if you will. There were a lot of trees there that I think that if we had not removed, particularly there, with some of these storms, like what occurred in Central Park. I happened to be there at a graduation party a couple weekends ago. It was last weekend. And to go down a couple of those streets and see these massive trees that had been uprooted into people's homes, in their garages, that you could tell had fallen across the roads, when the storms come through. The unfortunate part I have a lot of trees in my yard. I've had to cut a few down. I don't like to cut trees down. I'll be frank, I don't like to cut trees down, but I've had to remove them because they were a danger to my property or they started encroaching on my neighbor's fence or whatever the case may be. So we have to do that also with our town parks, but know that we're committed to planting more trees. We're not just going to go there and we're not just going to have just a bunch of green space without something to cover it. So you'll see that. Plus at the Leonard C. White or Carmen Park, there's a larger pavilion being constructed right now. That's going to be a major improvement for the folks that have to go there and watch the games and be in an area that's covered, particularly for rain. They'll have a nice spot there. So we're making all of these improvements to move the town in the right direction. And we have the money from the perspective of the parkland funds. There's a couple $100,000 in an account, and that money comes from development in the town. And that money comes in. Frankly, not a lot has been done in the last few years with those funds. And again, it's not a finger pointing game. We just know that, the board knows that we have to make these improvements. Whether, my kids went through, I have 3 girls, so we basically spent our time just on the girls' softball fields. But I would go around to the Little League parks if my nephew was playing or somebody else was playing. But, those of us who've been in the parks and we go to the different events and opening days, invariably someone's going to ask us questions. When is the town going to take care of this? When is the town going to take care of that? We're trying to do a lot of those things between this year and next year that we now need to be improved in those parks. So please be patient with us. We're not just committing the work there because someone told us that they didn't like a tree or that they wanted something else as an amenity in the park. we might not necessarily agree with. We're working with the Parks Committee. We have a group of citizens that are assisting us with this process. So that's what I have to say on that. Anyone else?
I have a couple of questions. All right, so there's no other parking lot being erected, correct, Mr. Supervisor?
No, that's
Right, so clearly you folks have been misinformed. May I ask where you got your information?
Well, about the slurry pump.
Well, let's talk one piece at a time. What about the parking lot? Where did the parking lot information come from?
We hear from talking to neighbors in the area. We hear a lot of things, and one of the reasons we hear a lot of things and we don't know what is going on is because we haven't heard much information from the board. We don't know what the plan is for our park. We see things happening, but we don't know how they connect. It's very good to hear that some things are going on. Some trees are going to be planted, some improvements are going to be made. Those derelict concrete steps are finally going to be taken out because they're hazardous.
Absolutely.
But we'd like to know these things. Residents would like to know what's happening with our park because for years nothing has happened. The entranceways have been neglected. A lot of the gates are broken. Some of the fencing was broken. We don't see anything good happening.
Well,
So it's good to hear that, yes, things are going to occur. The basketball court is in a sorry state, and that is used from late winter until late fall by kids. There's always somebody on that basketball court. It's the most popular thing we have in the park, and it's in sad shape. It doesn't cost that much for some new backboards, some netting, maybe stripe the blacktop, or even give that an upgrade. That's very well liked and used. So we just want to see that things are going well. We hear the rumors, and I won't talk about it now, maybe we can talk about it another time, that the sewage pumping station is headed there. And if it is, well, how big is it? What size? Is it going to smell?
No.
Is it going to have noise? Where is it
No.
going?
First of all, if you see a couple of the pumps that are out there, just to point it out to you, there's one that is, the building is just above the tracks on Curry Road by Rockwood Avenue and Cedar Lawn in there. There's a building there. That's about the size of the building that will be there. The town looked for property along Hamburg Street, but there's two things that are there, and this is just my own personal piece. I'll tell you from my perspective. My personal opinion is that property that's along Hamburg Street, the highest and best use for that property and for the people who own it. Now, acknowledging that the sewer line is going to go in, what DOT is doing with the sidewalks and those things, that's not up to us. That is a state road. We cannot dictate to DOT what they can do there. They're going to come in and do what they want, but at the same time, it will be an improvement. They will be making turning lanes, and we've gone. The prior board went through this for over a year, so this is not new. And there have been articles in the newspaper, et cetera. So there have been many meetings on this, and I apologize to you if, for whatever reason, you were not informed. But it's not a situation where we were presented with let's just push this through. This was a process that was established for probably almost 2 years. Multiple public hearings. Yeah, public hearings, et cetera. But the station would go in a small spot there. But anything that they'll move around, they'll move around. They're not going to be impacted. It's not going to impact the play for the kids. It's not going in a place that is going to really be visible. It'll be treed out. I mean, we intend to put plantings around it so that it will be sheltered from the perspective of visual perspective. So it'll be a vast improvement there. And more importantly, and again, this is just my own, forgive me for using the term capitalist nature, but it's important for those residents and those business owners along Curry Road to maximize the value of their property. Or excuse me, apologies, Hamburg Street, thank you. And maximize the value of their property. For the town to go in and offer an amount of money that would not be enough, frankly, or in some municipalities they do takings, which is something I completely, I do not support at all in any way. So that property should be utilized for commercial development as much as possible. We shouldn't be putting a pump station right on top of Hamburg Street there, which is really property we could use for tax base. We own the property, we have an opportunity to put it there, plus what it also gives us. And when I say us, I'm not talking about the board, I'm talking about the town in total. It provides a main line that's going to go down second there and be put in a position where later on, if someone else wants to tie in, or there may be opportunity if the state or the federal government come in with a lot of money, because it would be uber costly for residents there to tie in, there may be an opportunity for them to tie in with that pump house there. If it's elsewhere, because the line will be going down that stretch of road, there's opportunity there for the future. So that's it in a nutshell. We had looked at a piece of property on Hamburg Street, and at this point in time, I just don't recall if the school owned it or it was privately owned. It's right by the entrance to Brock School. But again, is that where you want a pump house? You know, at the entrance to the school. So, you know, we found the best in our view. The engineers also found the best place for that facility. And if you go up. Not that I'm going to necessarily say to you, on the way home, while you're going back home, go up and check out the building there. But if you go outside of it, there's no noise. There's really no noise. You might hear a low hum because these, the pumps are, most everything is below ground.
Did you check out the area where the water tower is right now? Would it fit there on an existing property that the town owns?
The big issue with that is that the mechanics, the piping underneath that tank, if we ever had to rip things out, we would probably have to, and I'm just saying this from what I know is underneath it, we'd probably have to rip out all the sewer lines too. See what I mean? We'd put us in a bad position there, I think, to do that. I don't know that would work.
Mr. Supervisor.
Yes.
All right. I don't get to say this often enough. Everything that you said about the parks and the improvements and everything that's going on there, and there's no parking lot, I wholeheartedly agree. We are on the same page. We are a concerted effort to get those improvements made. But then I digress. I voted against putting, as soon as I found out that the sewer pump station with the grinder on it was going to be placed in Carmen Park, I reversed my opinion on that location and I voted no against that project. I put out truthful information because there was a lot of misinformation about what was going on in Carmen Park. I'm the source of that. It's all true. During that meeting, and our meetings are recorded and you can watch them on YouTube, all right? There's a link right on the town website. You will hear an admission that pump stations do occasionally overflow, and it could happen where there is affluent, or whatever you want to call that goes through a sewer pump. Well, the sewer system is going to be gravity fed along Hamburg Street. It is going to drain towards Carmen Park. There is going to be a pump station there where it is going to grind the gravity-fed effluent, keeping it clean, and then pump through a force main, which is a force pipe, all the ways over to Schenectady, and it will be tied in near Glengarry. My children play baseball there. My children also play soccer right next to the batting cages. My little girl learned how to walk there while watching her brother, or not watching her brother play baseball. That area, nobody can give you an assurance that it will never overflow. How often? Once a year? Probably not. Once a decade? I don't know. But once that ends up on the ground there, in an area where children play, I don't want to be in a position where the soil has to be removed. Removing contaminated soil is incredibly costly. I want to put that pump station anywhere else on Hamburg Street. There was a location that was initially discussed near the Joe Pizzeria, that little office, I can't think of the attorney, David McDermott's office, that area right there on Hamburg Street. I was all for it. It belongs. It's an easy run from the actual gravity-fed section. I don't like it being in Carmen Park. Carmen Park is a heavily used park over the summer. This could be anywhere. And unlike the administration, I am a firm believer in eminent domain. I am a firm believer in taking. When the government can be served better and the people can be served better by taking a very small piece of property and compensating the owner for it, so that we don't have grinder pumps grinding sludge in a park where my children and your children play. It's easy. There is a lot of land the same distance away from Hamburg Street. Industrial land, only a couple blocks away, a little closer to the bridge. Down by like First and First, there's industrial land there. Through a very, very inexpensive taking. Because once again, this isn't a large building. And yes, I invite everybody to look at one right near the Curry Road overpass for the trains. You know, a taking in that area would have been inexpensive. We still have to put all the facilities there. It wouldn't have been an extra cost, and it wouldn't have my children playing next to a building and a potential source of contamination in the future.
Well, thank you. Has an offer been made to that individual on that piece of property without resorting to eminent domain, maybe through negotiation?
Has it, Mr. Supervisor?
I don't recall that parcel when I was here. There was the one I know about was on the other side down the road by Brother School, so I'm not aware of it.
Well, yeah, the David McDermott property. I think we're talking about the same property.
Okay, I thought you meant.
Well, no. I would be interested. I would be interested in putting it near First and First. I'd be interested in putting it at David McDermott's old office.
But I just want to answer that this way because we don't have an engineer here on that project tonight because there's no public hearing call for that project here for that. Those are closed. But I don't know if there's an engineering reason why that it has to be a certain length away from where the connection is with the city. See, I don't know that. That's a question I did not have an answer to. That's something you can ask the engineers and see if there may be potential for something else. But at this point in time, it was also a situation where with the costs that were associated with the project, since the town owns the land, we would not have to put a burden on those individuals who are going to be the first ones to have that sort of cost.
The children of this town should be the first focus.
I don't disagree with you, Darren. That's why we're doing all the work that we're doing in the park. But I have not, with the newer sewer pump stations that are out there, an older pump station, I can tell you that, yeah, there's a very higher likelihood that something like that could happen. But the technology that they have today is just not the same. Most of these spills that you're seeing around the area here, even locally, it's because they have not made the improvements to their plants, or they're in a position where something breaks down, some major piece of equipment breaks down that maybe and I'm not saying that they didn't, but maybe wasn't properly maintained, and like our sewer plant, hopefully we'll have those resolutions at our next meeting.
Just to finish up on that thought, and I totally understand, and nothing's perfect, but this is the problem with any sewer project. The effluent continues to run in a gravity-fed system to the pump house. Whether the pump house is working or not, whether the generator kicks on when there's a power failure, whether any of the mechanisms end up breaking or getting clogged or whatever, and that's the point where there would be a problem. And I would just ask, and at this point it's too late, unfortunately, I put out the information literally the day that I received it. But with that being said, if there was any way that the administration could move the pump house anywhere else, I think it would be a worthwhile endeavor, because that is the point where the effluent will leave if the pump station fails.
Mr. Rush, I want to add, I'm sorry, Mr. Valano, are you completed?
Absolutely.
Okay, a couple of things that I think need to be noted. Number one, the biggest asset this board has is an informed resident, okay? So we welcome your questions, okay? I would like to think that if you've called the town board office, that someone would respond to you. I think if you wanted to notify the Department of Public Works, they would be more than happy to share these plans with you. Okay, this is all a matter of public record. I don't want you leaving here thinking that we operate in some sort of a secretive backdoor way. We're very public, we're very open, and we always invite the residents to engage. So feel free to ask your questions. The more informed you are, the less, and I don't know where this came from, and I don't know if you know who's responsible for the signage that was in the park, but this is to me, putting the supervisor's personal phone number on here, I think is an act of responsibility more than anything that you accused here, before you were fully informed. We're not always going to agree. I will agree with my colleagues, I will respectfully disagree at times. But most importantly, dialogue and engagement is welcome. We want your questions, but we are a better body when you are properly informed as opposed to being misinformed. You hear those rumors. Rumors exist because there's an audience. Let's eliminate those rumors by guiding you to the right people to get you the real answers. So, if you have a concern to be made, you're well informed, and hopefully we've at least, although you might not exactly like everything about the project, at least you know now that for every tree that's been cut, we're going to plant 2. At least you know now the basketball court is going to be repaired. At least you know now that our goals to improve our parks for our children and for our community is at the forefront of the priorities of this body.
Well, maybe we have a public relations problem. I found out all these things because I came here. But as you can see, a lot of people didn't come.
Right.
And they don't watch the video of the town board meeting. They may not go and ask the town for...
But they're more than welcome to. It's an open door policy.
But maybe the board has to be proactive and put out some resolute information.
How more proactive than on public television with these meetings?
And I did email you back. I know that I did email you back, and I definitively said there is no parking lot. Yet the rumors fester, and I don't fester the rumors. So whoever's festering the rumors, again, if I would not definitively say there is no parking lot if there was no parking lot. Number one, I have no. I just want to say this. I have no need to lie. This is town business. It's town property. Our objective is to make improvements. Just like in this room, there's still a few things that need to be done, like improving the system, because when people are watching the meetings, they can't hear everything that's being said. So there are just a lot of things that we need to do, step by step. Now, if the anticipation is that every time we make I hate to say it like this, and it's not to diminish anything here, but make a minor improvement, I mean, are we supposed to send an email blast out to everyone in town, tell them we're making a minor improvement? I don't disagree with you, don't misunderstand me. You live next to a park, you live next to a piece of property, you want to know what's going on with it. I was very definitive in my comments back to you what we were doing there, and so that's all I have to say.
And just so you're aware, there was a couple weeks ago some Facebook chatter amongst the local groups about the trees coming down. I did respond with a couple paragraph answer in response with what the plans were. So I think we are all trying to keep actively engage everyone in town and make sure proper information is getting out and that we're answering your questions. So feel free to call our offices, ask questions, send emails, come to meetings, watch meetings. We're all available to you, whether it's in the deli section at Price Chopper or while we're at the park with our kids. Feel free to pop up and say, hey, what's going on with the trees over there? We'll answer your questions, and if we don't know the answers, we'll find out the answers.
Well, I did learn a lot, but I think, again, the typical resident doesn't watch the town board meeting.
I think unfortunately that's true. I wish they would.
I would say probably not even 1% of the town doesn't.
I know, and when we put out calls for applications and things, we get very few responses. So it's by people like you coming and sitting tonight and coming up to privilege of the floor that we get to at least provide you with proper information so you can go out and disseminate it amongst your neighborhood.
Well, you need to know that information is not reaching us. I talked to a lot of the neighbors that nobody had any idea what was going on. Maybe they're not using the mediums available to them, but that's the way people are. They don't have time really to pursue it. Information is not getting out. When people don't have the correct information, a lot of times you find out they make up to fill in the blanks. They fill in the blanks with things, and that's how rumors speak.
Do you have any suggestions about how we as a board could better inform our residents?
I would utilize the newspaper, us Schenectady Gazette.
They stopped sending us a reporter, sir. Yeah,
Used to be someone in the front row.
There should be someone here in the front row.
Yeah, we had a reporter. He ended up leaving to take a job at Angelo Santa Barbara's office. We ended up having another reporter. She ended up taking a job back downstate in the Hudson area. They have yet to send us another report.
They do have somebody they just appointed, just so you know.
Okay.
And he just doesn't happen to be here this evening, but.
Well, I think I've had you real long enough, but it does seem like we are going in the right direction. It seems like we're all going in the same direction. Maybe we're still not gonna be on the same page with the sewer part of it, but I'm glad to see that the parks are being taken care of and the basketball court.
The funds are there and we want to utilize them.
Do need, is gonna be.
If you want a copy of the sewer plan, stay after the meeting, I'll make a photocopy.
I don't know if I'd like to look at just to see for the size of it and see where exactly it's going to be located.
Sure.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
So, one thing I would like to mention about, you're saying people aren't being informed. People that want answers of what's going on and really want to be informed are gonna do like you did. People that say they're not informed and they don't want to know what's going on, but they make no effort to do that. What are we supposed to do? Go up to each and every person and tell them what's going on? We can't do that. If people want to know what's happening in this town, they need to find out. They need to make the effort. But on a more positive note, what I wanted to mention about the basketball court, I really would like to see some nice basketball courts there again, because I remember as a kid growing up, they used to have, incredible basketball leagues there for both like the high school level and even the adult level. They had leagues that were unbelievable. People would come from all over the Tri-Cities to watch the basketball leagues, watch them play because they were so competitive. It was wonderful to watch. As a child, I loved it. I used to go there almost every day to watch the basketball leagues. I think it'd be great to revitalize that situation again. I think that would be wonderful.
But maybe we should look at social media too. People look at Facebook, they look at Instagram, they look at Twitter.
It's on our website.
They look at, well, the website really didn't have anything about Common Park at all.
Well, you can click on the website and get to every board meeting.
I'm gonna give you a copy of
It's
it.
true, but people don't like to go sit through and sift through board meeting minutes. It's not the most exciting way to occupy your time. But thank you, folks.
Thank you. So we're going to go into executive session at this point in time, or? Yes.
Can I
Sorry.
just
Go ahead,
ask,
please.
so then in effect, in going back in retrospect, this sewer sludge thing is actually gonna be in the park?
Yes.
The building.
It's already been decided?
Yes.
The building, the engineering, the map plan report has it located in the park.
To me, that's very
In the
unfortunate.
very corner.
How can you put a sewerage dump station in a children's park? It doesn't make sense to me.
I appreciate
I'm
it.
sorry, but that's just the way I feel about it.
Thank you.
I agree.
Certainly, there can be other places in our town that we can put that
But
sewage
again-
sludge dump station.
To be fair, I'm
Really?
none of us are engineers here, I don't think, and have an
Absolutely,
engineering
myself
background.
included.
So we are.
Common sense tells you, kids, I'm speaking as I speak here, I'm just trying to get a point across. Really, there has to be a better place to put that thing. And also, I'm sorry, but I can't agree with the sewer problem, the project. I think some way that citizens in this town should be compensated for that. You just can't walk in there and say, all right, now you have to spend all of your money, which some of those people don't have, to connect to a sewer system. There's got to be a way that the town can somehow, I don't know, do something to recompense those
We
people
will-
for their monies.
What I will say at this point is that, without saying anything beyond this, and so not specifically to the sewer, because we had our public meetings. The prior board had their public meetings. They basically were at a point where they voted that project through, really, without, when we voted through, and we had to go back into the drawing board, if you will, again, because between the comptroller's office and others, things were not. Let me say it this way: things were details changed during the process last year before a few of us got on board here, and this is not anything to do with Mr. Valano or Mr. Longmore. It's just these things happen. So we took the steps necessary to make sure that we could take the project through. Okay.
Right.
Now, but I just want to say this. Okay, no, that's all right. Is that we are, I've had a few discussions, really in my, I guess I want to say with myself and with a few other officials within the town about different ways that we may be able to assist in different projects, and I can't say specifically to that project, where we may be able to, mitigate some cost. But we cannot do it for one person or one project. It would have to be across the board in the town.
Sure.
So, as we move into this end of this year and into next year, you'll see some of those things happen. And again, those will be public hearings that will be held, because anytime we do anything with a fee, anytime we change a process really in the town, we have to have a public hearing of one kind or another. So,
Sure.
Putting up a stop sign, you have to have a public hearing.
Absolutely.
So,
Mrs. Rush, also please know that the cost that's been put out there is the worst-case scenario. We are diligently working with our grant writer, with Assemblyman Santa Barbara, with Senator Amador, with the governor's office. I happened to be in D.C. back in May, and I mentioned it to both Tomko's office and Senator Schumer's office, and left some information in Senator Gillibrand's office. We are constantly looking out at the state and federal level to help reduce that cost.
I would certainly hope so, sir.
Well,
I would certainly hope so.
and you know
And
what?
also, I'm hoping that everything that you folks are discussing is going back to the people that are being affected by the sewer project.
The information is public.
expect-
It's a
I would
matter of
expect
public
that.
record. It's all a matter of public record. They are,
They're being informed every step of the way.
Well, the records are there. If they ask the questions, we give the answers to them. Things happen in the Gazette, things happen on social media, things are on the town website. We have a pretty good response record between the supervisor, myself, the girls in the office, the clerk's office. Usually when you ask a question, we get you directed to someone who can get you the answer. And, we will continue that inclusive policy. We have sat here and not ended the board meeting officially and sat at that back table and had public discussions about how to spend money and how to do other things, and invited the public to stay, and there was a very positive social media response on that. As far as the Gazette is concerned, Mr. Rush, I'm afraid I don't think too many people under the age of 45 still read the newspaper. But we are constantly trying to update our social media applications and some other things to keep the public informed. And again, it behooves us to have an informed public.
Absolutely.
Because it's those rumors that halt progress. Because, maybe you knew the trees were coming down, but you didn't know that for every one that comes down, we're gonna plant two. Maybe you didn't know that some of
Yes.
these.
That was news to us.
Right. Anyway, that's about it.
One more thing I just wanted to mention. Looking at it in a different perspective, we understand about the cost, and that is going to be tough. And we'd like to find ways to help out with that if we can. But we don't know if we can. But in the interest of trying to make that area, I grew up about 4 blocks from that area. And I will tell you, since I've been a kid, and even like say the last 20 years, that area has become so downtrodden, so fallen apart. If we don't do something to make that area better soon, that will just become like a ghetto area, so to speak. There'll be nothing left if people even want to stay in that area. It's really gotten bad. And we have the opportunity. Department of Transportation said, we're going to do this project. We're going to we're going to put sidewalks in, we're going to widen the road, we're going to pave it, we're going to make this nice so people can have a nice place to live. But if we don't, we have that opportunity, we can get those sewers in for a minimal cost, because they're going to do most all the other work. Once they do that work, if we haven't put sewers in there, in another 20 years, that area will be, forget it, nobody will want to live there. So we need to do it while we can, because once they do what they're going to do, they're not going to let us dig that up or tear that up or do anything with that for another 20 years. So this is our one and only chance to try to make that area better. Anytime you want to have progress, there's people at the early part of it are going to suffer. But you got to remember, for every person that comes on board, after we get it on Hamburg Street, if we can get some of the other areas to come in and spread it out, every single person that comes on board, that price goes down for everybody. Every single person, that price goes down.
Well, 2 quick comments, and I'll sit down.
Go ahead.
First, I hope the pipe is large enough that it can take more connections.
Yeah, they have it planned out that way.
Before we put it in the ground.
They have it planned that way.
And the second thing is, I hope you pursue the negotiation option where there might be somebody who'd be willing to sell their piece of their property to the town at a reasonable price without having to go to eminent domain, and who would get the pumping station out of our park. Thank you and good night.
Thank you. Mr. Supervisor, can we close? Just while we're talking about parks, I just wanted to mention that on Saturday, July 23rd, the Parks Committee is working on a cleanup day at Jaraka Park, starting at 9 o'clock. Volunteers are greatly needed. Kiwanis Park cleanup day didn't have a ton of people, so it meant for heavy lifting for few over a long morning. So the more people that can come out, bring rakes, bring your mug of coffee. Jaraka Park on the 23rd at 9 o'clock. Anyone who can come even for a little while, it would be greatly appreciated.
And just for West End and the Junction, Rotterdam Rotary and some of us are going to be down there doing some work in that park along with the Challenger League and for the reason I forget is it Rotterdam Thunder? I'm trying to remember the name of the league now. It's escaping me, but the adult league.
Yeah, that's it.
So we've got several activities. So to Ms. Miller Herrera's point, if you have a rake and a shovel, join them at Jaraka Park on the 23rd.
I'll be there with my rake.
So shall we go into executive session here? Yeah, I think we should, yeah. I think we should adjourn because we have to keep it open.
Okay.
We have to keep it open, we'll have to come back out
Okay, then come back out.
in the meeting.
Mr. Supervisor, I make a motion, we go into executive session at this time.
Okay, let's go, because we already called for it, so we're.
I did the ritual.